Hello everyone, in this video we'll be discussing class in Python. Let me start by showing you a preview of the capabilities of the class we're about to create. Alright, I created beforehand a personal budget class. It's a simple and basic one, so let's see how this is going to work. So from budget, import budget, then say my budget equal to budget. This is going to take three arguments. Like the first one is the income, that's after tax, 7,568. It's going to be a float. Then it's going to take my fixed expenses. Like every budget would definitely have fixed expenses. All right. So say my fixed expenses are like 2,500. It's asking for the third argument is the debt. That's like the unplanned expenses are made or probably some debts that I need to pay. It's about $450. Then let's print this and see what it gives us. All right, print my budget. You can see that this is saying your budget for the month of September is, we have a fixed income, $7,568. Then the expenditure is $2,500. The debt is $450. Then if you check this out, the class didn't take an argument for savings, but we created a method that calculated 30% of the total earning, that's the income, which will be deducted first. Then that's $1,270.40. That's 30% of my income. And then there's another method that shows me the new balance for the month of, that's how much I have left for the month of September after I paid all the debt and removed the amount I needed for expenditure. So going forward, let's go further to look at how we are going to build this up. Yeah, but before then, let's quickly have a talk on what is class and how is class built. Right. Class is like a blueprint developed for creating an object. It creates a new type of an object, allowing new instance of that object to be created. For example, we can create a generic class of persons. Okay, let me show you how that is. Say class person, a colon. Then let's just go through this for now. Then we define, okay, let's say this person will have name. The class of person will have name, will have, for instance, just age, just the basic characteristics of the man, let's say, then gender. Let's keep it this simple. Then let's now declare as, let's declare this attribute. I'll be discussing this momentarily. All right, let's declare this attribute. Say self dot name equal to name, and self dot age equal to age, and self dot gender equal to gender. Already I've created this class of person. If I want to create an object from this class, what I just need to do is say my first person, person one equal to person in a bracket now. It takes three arguments. The first one is name, a string, as let's say James. Then the second argument is the age of the person, say it's 25 years. And then the last thing is a male, another string. Let me try and print or access some properties of this person called P1 or this person called James. Let's try to access his name. Let me print out this P1, that's person dot name. Let's see what this gives us. All right, we have Jane, or it's meant to be James, spelled Jim. So That's how classes are created. So going forward, every standard Python library we have used or yet to explore is a custom class created by some programmer. For instance, what we call data type like string, int, float, list, and so on are different classes created by somebody. Let's check this out. For instance, let me create, let's clear this out first. Say name equal to Olubinga. If I print this out and then check the type, what type it is, let's try and see what is going to give us. Print type, then in bracket now name. All right. We see that it gives us saying this is showing that this is a string belonging to a class, right? Going forward, we will build a custom personal budget class. Although building personal applications or some small apps, we don't actually need to create a custom class. But for the sake of those or some that will work for organizations, many organizations might have policies or standards which mandates custom class creation. It is therefore essential for software engineers to have this knowledge. So let's get started with creating our custom, simple and basic personal budget class. And to create this, the first thing we need to do is impute the class keyword and budget. And we terminate with this with a colon. Then in every class or library, you usually see something called doc string. And I think I've talked about this before. So doc string, this is a type of text embedded in triple quotation marks. Or let's see what this looks like. A custom class for managing my budget. So that's for me. So moving further, after the doc string, we then define the class attributes. What are attributes? Attributes are the properties of the class, and these are in two forms. There's the data attributes and there are the methods. All right. Methods in the sense that methods are still functions in a class. And so to declare these attributes, the data attributes first, which are those things a class has. We'll be using Python's special function or special method called init, right? And that's declared by doing the define double underscores, then init, then with a trailing double underscores, then open and closing parenthesis with the self keyword. The self keyword telling us about the instance of the object itself, right? Then what are we going to be defining as the attributes? What are the basic attributes this my budget class will have? Number one is the income, or say my income, then fixed expenditure expenses, then say paid debt. So yeah, I'll be showing you some logics. Say to declare each attribute, we start by saying self dot income. Now I want this to be a private attribute. And for it to be a private attribute, that's clients will not be able to change it because my income is actually fixed for now. So for it to be a private attribute, you can use double underscore to precede the attribute as income equal to income. The next thing is self the fixed expenses. This is going to be some attributes that is local to the class, right? It's just going to be read only. So for it to be read only, it's just going to be starting with a single underscore. We'll see why we need some of these things later in the video as fixed expenses now equal to f expenses. Then the third one is self dot paid debt equal to paid debt. All right, I've declared what or the data attributes the class has right now. Then I need some properties. For instance, the self.income equal to income, it's a private stuff. So if I want to show it to clients, how do I show it to clients? All right, because it's a private, they don't have access to it, and I need them to have access to it. So I'm going to pick this property and declare a way that I want it to be shown to the client. So how do I do this? I'll be using a property decorator. So what is a decorator? A decorator adds code or function to the decorated code in order to extend its functionality. So for this purpose, we'll be using the decorator and it starts with the art property, sorry, the heart symbol and property. All right. And this property has a getter and a setter functionality. And the getter helps us to get the property from the class, while the setter helps us to edit the attribute or the data attribute of that particular class. So let's demonstrate this by just saying income attribute. And what we just need to do is we say this should return as we want the income to be returned in float data type. And so say return float self dot income. All right. So that's how we'll be returning because it's a private data attribute. That's how we'll be returning it for clients to see or for users to see. For us not to waste time, let me just copy this in some places so then I then edit it to manage our time. So this is for fixed expenses, f underscore expenses. Then we return single expenses. Let's paste one more time for paid debt. Paid debt underscore debt. Then it's going to return self.paid debt. We want it to return the paid debt as a read-only feature. All right. And for us to set this paid debt, we need a setter function. And how do we get that? Using the same stuff, we say the at symbol, then paid debt dot setter. That's the decorator we'll be using now. Then the name must be the same as paid debt. Then self, and this must take a value. And what value is it going to take? We say unplanned expenses, kind of just unplanned. It's good that way. Then we say it should return before we say it should return self dot paid debt equal to then the total debt we incurred. And where's the total debt? Let me create the total debt. All right, the total debt is just equal to our unplanned. We're going to be placing in this in there just manually. Like ordinarily, I'm supposed to create like a different class that collects, or sorry, a different function now that collects in a list this date and sum it up, which is going to be returned into this attribute, right? But then for the sake of our time, let's just keep it simple. Then I think in the preview we saw savings. So let's create a method that helps us to deduct the amount of money I want to save for that month or on monthly basis. And how do we do this? So just say def to define savings itself. This is going to take an argument too, and the argument is save. Just decide to name it save percent. That's the percentage of money I want of my money I want to save per month. Right? It's going to be 30%. So this is going to return amount to save. All right. Where is the amount to save? I say amount to save is equal to save percent multiplied by self the income. Take note of this now. We are using the property income here, not the data attribute, right? We are using the argument right here. Then how do we go about the save percent? At the very top of our page, let's try to add the percentage as a constant. Something will always, the class will always access whenever it needs it. So what is this now? Let's say save. Let me have it in capital letter because it's a class. Save percent equal to, and we have this as a float. Like I said, it's going to be 30% of my income. So that's our percent. We'll use this in action. We'll see this in action in just a while. All right. So having done that, then I think the last thing we saw in the preview is we had the balance, like something showing the total amount left after the expenses, the debt, and the rest have been deducted. So let me create a function to do this. So say new balance. This is not going to take any argument because we just be adding up and subtracting some stuff. All right. So total expenditure. We are summing up the debts plus the debt savings, the fixed expenditure from we are summing all of this together, summing them up together, then deducting it from the income. That's how we then get new balance. So to do this, all I just need to do is sum up the expenses and so put the whole sum of the expenses in total expenditure. So that's self that's the first one is self dot expenses now, fixed expenses. I'm calling this from the function. If you note this, it says from the method rather, but it's showing f meaning function from the expenses, then plus self dot paid debt. This is another function too. Self dot. Now I'll be using this the savings method. Savings, and this takes an argument. What's the argument? Save percent. That's where we need the constant I created up here, if you remember. All right, so let's move further. After taking or aggregating all the expenditures into and saving it into total expenditure, then let's now calculate the balance. Balance is then equal to, this is going to be in a float. Open and close the parentheses, self the, now we need the income with double underscore, right? That's the property minus the total expenditure. This is going to give us our new balance. So what do we do next is just to return the new balance. Return balance. And that's how we have created this class. But then we saw that the class, when I demonstrated the whole thing, the stuff was shown in a readable text, right? And Python has a special function for doing this to represent our class in a string. And what is that function? This is the def, and so the function is we can use either the wrapper function or the string function to do this. So for this purpose, we'll be using the string function. And how am I going to represent, or how am I going to present my stuff in a wonderful format? So the string function is just going to return details, and everything is going to be in F string. Your budget for the month of, then the month, I want it to be dynamically typed, not a static thing. And to make this a dynamically typed attribute, I need to create something beforehand. And so let me get to the top of the page and create month after the save percent month. It should be in capital letter because it's gonna be a constant, right? So month. Then I've not discussed this date time library with you, but it's something easy, and I'm going to place in the comment below a link to where you can just read this up and have better understanding of how it works. Datetime dot now. Then for us to get just the year and in a good format, so we'll be using the str, that string f time method. We're going to be using this datetime method called str, like that, and we're going to present it. We're going to be presenting just the year. That's in capital letter B. I'll place in the comment below some resource to help you understand this stuff better. So, like I said, I'll be declaring this in the month in this statement that will be returned in the month of dash month. Right, that's how it goes. Then add another string below, still f string. Say my income is income. Then for us to format this well, let's use the dollar symbol. All right. Then self the income, self. Sorry. In now in because you're using the f string stuff, we need our curly braces. Say self that income. The next one is, let me just copy this so I can manage the time a little better. So this is for self the income. This is going to be for the expenditure, and self that expenditure as F expenses. And this is for paid debt, and this is for self the for the paid debt, it's just self the paid debt. Then for savings, we'll be imputing the method that helps us to print out the amount we have saved for that month. Savings. Then it's going to take that same argument, save percent. I would like this to be in two, because it's a float, I would like it to be in two decimal places. And the string format to use for this is period 2.5 to print out in two decimal places. Then the last one, which is our new balance. A new balance is cash balance. That's going to take another dollar sign. Then our curly brace is going to take self dot the method now, which is the new balance method, and that has no argument. And that's that for our demonstration. It's pretty simple creating and using class in Python. Let's try to test out the class we have created. We can either test it out in this page, or we'll go to the main page. Let's import, let's say from budget. You can then import budget. Then how do I create this budget? I say my budget for is equal to, then and we're constructing a new budget class for me. This can be used by any other person. Say budget, and my budget takes just three arguments or three parameters. The first one is my income, say 8,520. That's income after tax. Then remember that it's a float. Then the next thing it takes is my total expenditure, say it's 2,480. Then the total debt that I incurred in that month is $457. So if I try to print my budget, let's print this and see what it gives. So my budget, that's, say, your budget for the month of September: income, expenditure, debt, and savings. Then the total balance is cash balance. That's for that same month. Then like I said earlier, that to make the income thing a really private or something that is just readable, nobody will be able to change, and that's why we use the underscores. So let's try and test this out. Say, like told us earlier, that accessing any attribute or data attribute of an object, what we can do is say my the name of the class, my budget dot. Let's try to change the income now. Income is equal to 76,000,000 already. You can see that. Let's try and see what this is saying. Say property income cannot be set because it's a private property, and that's the essence of using the double underscores, the double underscores before typing in the name of the property, right? To make it read only and not writable, and especially to make it a private property to that class. All right. There are many things to be discussed, many features of class in Python that we need to discuss. Like we need to talk about inheritance. We need to talk about polymorphism and several other features of class, which we might not be able to do in this edition. So probably in future class, I'm going to show us how to work out inheritance and polymorphism in a single video. All right. Thank you very much for staying with me. Then I will appreciate you to like, subscribe, and place some comments, especially if you have some questions. All right. Thank you and God bless you. See you in future videos.